You have been living in a dream, but not the kind you wake from. This dream disguises itself as reality, solid, reliable, measurable. But what Vadim Zeland reveals is unsettling. Reality behaves less like a fixed structure and more like a pliable mirror, responding not to your efforts or struggles, but to your intention. This is dream space, a vast, infinite field, what Zeland calls the alternative space, containing every possible scenario, every potential outcome that could ever unfold. And yet, most people wander this space blind, reacting, forcing, grasping, unaware that the very laws they trust are an illusion. Here's the hidden rule no one told you about. Reality is not responding to what you think or what you want. It is reflecting the state of your inner being. Intention is not desire. Desire is longing, and longing always implies distance, a gap between you and what you wish for. That distance creates a tension. And in this dream space, that tension is precisely what reality reflects back. So when you say, "I want," what dream space receives is a signal of lack, and that lack returns to you, mirrored and multiplied. But intention, true intention, does something radically different. It collapses that distance. Intention is a quiet but powerful knowing. It is the assumption that the path is already open, that the outcome is already yours, that reality has no choice but to comply because the mirror has no will of its own. The reason your life can feel unfair, the reason some people seem to effortlessly glide into success, happiness, or synchronicity while others struggle endlessly, is because this rule operates whether you know it or not. Dream space responds not to struggle, but to alignment, not to forcing, but to flow. Zeland makes it clear in this chapter that dream space contains infinite variations, like film strips waiting to be projected into your life. Every outcome already exists, and your intention is the hand that picks which frame to load next. Most people never grasp this because they remain trapped in what Zeland calls excess potential. When you overvalue something, you introduce imbalance into dream space. The harder you want, the less aligned you are. Wanting is noise, intention is silence. In dream space, the person who needs nothing attracts everything, because their inner state is pure alignment, a readiness to receive without the distortion of grasping. And so, paradoxically, to master dream space is to stop striving and start selecting. But this isn't passive. Reality transurfing teaches that intention is not visualization, nor hope, nor belief. It is a declaration of movement, a quiet authority that doesn't negotiate with circumstance. Think about the mirror again. You can stand in front of a mirror and demand that your reflection smile, but until you smile, nothing changes. You can beg it, fight it, cry at it, but the mirror will remain unmoved, reflecting your exact condition without judgment or preference. Dream space is this mirror, but on the grandest scale. The hidden rule that no one told you about, the rule that makes life feel so mysterious and sometimes so unfair, is that reality is compelled to reflect your inner state, not your outer struggle. Most of us are trained to act as if effort and struggle are rewarded. We've been told that hustling, grinding, stressing, striving will bend reality to our will. But this is precisely where so many falter, because in dream space, struggle signals dissonance, not alignment. And so reality mirrors that dissonance back: delay, frustration, missteps, obstacles. While those rare few who hold a quiet, unwavering inner posture of certainty glide through life as if reality itself is conspiring on their behalf. Zeland calls this the wave of fortune. Once you grasp the true nature of dream space and understand that intention is alignment rather than effort, you begin to see how easily one can ride this wave. The dream responds not to desperation, but to serenity. And so while the world obsesses over productivity hacks, strategies, tools, and systems, dream space waits silently for those who have understood its deeper rule. Reality bends not to effort, but to alignment. This is why your reality often feels unfair. You have been playing by the wrong rules. The mirror reflects not your ambition, but your state. This is the terrifying simplicity of dream space, and it's why so few people ever truly gain mastery over their own lives. They think reality is something to conquer, but it was never designed to be conquered. It was designed to mirror. Vadim Zeland writes that there is no objective reality out there, only the reflection of your inner film strip, projected onto the infinite screen of dream space. This is why things often seem to go wrong precisely when you start pushing harder, fighting circumstances, or clinging to expectations. You are tightening the strings of dissonance, creating waves of excess potential that the universe seeks to balance. But when you release, when you trust, when you step into what Zeland calls outer intention, you awaken an astonishing force. Outer intention is the intention not of your ego self, but of dream space itself. It is the silent alignment where you no longer demand reality to change, because you have already become the version of yourself for whom the desired reality is simply normal. Imagine this. You are walking a path through a forest. The path forks endlessly, 1,000 directions to choose from, and each fork leads to a different version of your life. A life of struggle, a life of ease, a life of joy, a life of constant obstacles, a life of abundance, a life of loneliness. Every path already exists. It's all there, waiting. But most people don't choose consciously. They walk forward reacting to the terrain, arguing with what appears before them, forgetting that dream space doesn't create the path as they walk. It simply reveals the path that matches their inner posture. Here is where intention comes alive. The quiet inner knowing that says, "This is my path and I walk it lightly." In this state, dream space rushes to comply. The terrain ahead seems to smooth itself out. Events line up in almost eerie synchronicity. The lucky breaks start appearing. But it's not luck. It's the law of reflection at work. The key insight from pages 189 to 198 is that dream space is not personal. It's structural. It doesn't care about your hopes or your frustrations. It responds with mechanical precision to your inner state. You think you want money? Dream space reflects the vibration of wanting, which is always rooted in lack, and so it mirrors back more lack. You think you want love? Dream space reflects the vibration of seeking, which implies its absence, and so it mirrors back absence. But when you step into intention, you do not say, "I want." You simply live from the place where what you seek is already yours, not wishfully, not in fantasy, but in calm certainty. This is not about pretending or faking it. It is about embodying the state internally before external reality complies. You must become the version of yourself who already holds the outcome, and dream space, unable to do anything else, must mirror that state back to you. The most difficult thing for most people to accept is that effort itself often signals to dream space that you believe in separation, that you believe in difficulty, and so difficulty is precisely what you encounter. You might think, but what about action? Surely we must do something? And yes, action matters. But action from intention is effortless. Action from struggle is exhausting. When you act from alignment, your steps are light, clear, and synchronistic. Opportunities seem to arrange themselves. People show up at exactly the right time. Events unfold with minimal resistance. But when you act from desperation, when you act from excess importance, from fear of loss, from frantic need, you find resistance everywhere. Zeland emphasizes that intention is quiet authority, not arrogance, not force, not struggle. It's that strange power you see in people who walk into a room and own it without saying a word. That is the energy of intention in dream space. It's the unspoken confidence that your world is already reflecting back what you have chosen internally. So why don't we all live like this? Because most people are unconscious of this hidden rule. They believe that reality is an objective field of random events, that struggle is required, that suffering is noble, that striving is virtuous. Dream space is impersonal. It reflects back exactly what you project into it, no more, no less. Zeland's radical teaching is this: dream space is not your adversary. It is your perfect mirror. And intention is the single most powerful tool you possess for navigating this mirror. There is no waiting for reality to catch up. You set the state internally, and the reflection must comply. The hidden rule of reality, the rule that explains why life feels unfair, is that reality always mirrors your inner alignment, not your desires. And this is terrifying because it means total responsibility, but it's also liberating because it means total freedom. Dream space does not negotiate, it does not delay, it does not judge, it mirrors perfectly, immediately, flawlessly. You are not trapped in circumstances, you are trapped in your own state of being. And the mirror simply shows you what you refuse to see. But the moment you grasp this, the moment you stop pleading with reality and begin setting your inner state intentionally, dream space responds. It must. It always has. Excellent. Let's dive straight in. You see, dream space is neither cruel nor kind. It is utterly neutral. And that neutrality is what makes it feel so strange, almost alien to us. Because we've been conditioned to expect life to reward our hard work, our effort, our striving. But dream space does not recognize effort as meaningful. It recognizes states. This is where Vadim Zeland's teachings become most challenging. It means that reality is not an outcome you achieve. It is a mirror you shape by who you are being. This is why some people who work far less seem to receive far more, because they inhabit a state of natural alignment, even if unconsciously. And here is where intention distinguishes itself most clearly from desire. Desire says, I wish I could have that life. Intention says, that is my life. I am already there. Dream space doesn't judge whether you are worthy or ready. It simply reflects your alignment. And most people are aligned with struggle because struggle feels familiar. They believe at some deep level, life is hard, I have to fight for what I get. And dream space obliges them perfectly. They don't see that every scene in their movie is being scripted by the very state of struggle they carry within, but there is a way out of this trap, and Zeland describes it beautifully. You must reduce importance. Importance is the excess energy that distorts the mirror of dream space. When you inflate the significance of a goal, a relationship, an achievement, when you become obsessed with it, you introduce imbalance. And dream space responds by balancing it, usually by creating obstacles, delays, and problems. But when you lower importance, not by dismissing your desires, but by detaching from them emotionally, you allow dream space to reflect your intention purely, without distortion. It's like standing in front of a mirror calmly, lightly, without pressure, and suddenly the reflection softens too. Zeland calls this the art of going with the alternatives flow, recognizing that all paths exist simultaneously, and that the lightest path, the path of least resistance, is the one where your intention is pure and your emotional attachment is minimal. This is not passivity, it's not resignation, it's mastery. And this mastery is invisible to most, because it looks effortless. The master of dream space moves lightly without rushing, without clinging. But behind that apparent ease is a profound inner precision. They know exactly which state to hold, exactly which scene to project inwardly, so that the outer reflection must comply. And here's something crucial Zeland explains on these pages. Dream space is infinite, but your life is finite. This means that the number of possible realities is endless, but the time you have to navigate them is limited. So if you spend your days reacting, fighting, and struggling, you waste that precious time exploring lower potential scripts. Scripts filled with noise, drama, conflict, and scarcity. But when you align your intention properly, when you master the art of quiet, undemanding authority, you can navigate toward the most harmonious, elegant scripts available. In practical terms, this means, when you encounter an obstacle, you do not escalate its importance in your mind. When something you want feels distant, you do not cling harder. You release it internally and trust that dream space must reflect your readiness. When you feel urgency, you reduce importance. When you feel frustration, you return to alignment. Dream space rewards the one who stops fighting it. And this is why the teachings in this chapter are so powerful but so easily misunderstood. Because they sound paradoxical. Stop striving to achieve. Stop wanting to receive. Stop needing to succeed. But what Zeland means is this: hold your intention as a quiet internal truth, as if the outcome has already occurred, and then walk lightly, easily, with minimal importance. That is when dream space begins to unfold the path before you with grace. This doesn't mean you won't act. In fact, your actions will become more efficient, more impactful, and more joyful. You will stop wasting time on dead ends and self-sabotaging patterns. Instead, you will begin to move in harmony with the script you have chosen internally. This is why people who understand dream space often seem almost magical to outsiders. They achieve what others struggle for, but without the stress. They seem to be in the right place at the right time, again and again. But it's not luck. It's not even intuition. It's alignment. Zeland writes that there is no reason why this hidden rule should favor anyone, except that very few people even realize it exists, and fewer still live by it. And so dream space appears mysterious, random, or even cruel. But it is none of those things. It is mechanical, precise, unfailing. The mirror reflects your state perfectly, always. So while the world debates tactics and methods, dream space simply waits, waiting for you to drop excess potential, waiting for you to stop inflating importance, waiting for you to step into the quiet certainty of true intention. And the moment you do, the reflection changes, not because you forced it, but because you finally understood the hidden rule. Reality is not something you shape with effort. It is something you receive by alignment. You might wonder, but what about external circumstances? What about things I can't control? The economy, other people's actions, random events? Surely these influence my life too. This is where Zeland's perspective becomes radical. He suggests that even these so-called external forces are simply reflections of your alignment. That doesn't mean you cause every event directly, but it does mean that your alignment determines which version of reality you intersect with, which film strip unfolds before you. In the vast field of dream space, there are infinite variations of every moment. In one variation, you experience betrayal. In another, trust. In one variation, you face endless setbacks. In another, doors seem to open effortlessly. The difference isn't in what's out there. The difference is in your state, the internal configuration you hold as you navigate the world. Most people live reactively. They encounter an event, they interpret it negatively, and they project that negativity into their state, which then causes dream space to mirror back more of the same. It becomes a feedback loop. Negative interpretation leads to negative state. Negative state generates further negative reflection. Further negative reflection confirms negative interpretation, and round it goes. This is why Zeland emphasizes reducing importance and releasing attachment. When you lower the emotional charge you place on outcomes, you break the feedback loop. You stop feeding the mirror-distorted signals. You begin to move through life as an observer, lightly, calmly, holding your intention without obsession. And here lies the true power of intention as described in this chapter. Intention is a quiet, unshakable posture, a steady flame that does not waver in the winds of circumstance. Imagine walking through a storm with a lantern. The storm rages, but your grip on the lantern is calm. You do not curse the wind. You do not panic when the rain falls harder. You keep walking, gently shielding the flame. That flame is your intention. It is this steadiness that dream space recognizes and responds to. Not your words, not your desperate affirmations, not your attempts to manifest or attract. Those are just noise if they are not accompanied by alignment. You can tell yourself 1,000 times that you are successful, but if your state is one of doubt, fear, or grasping, dream space will reflect that state, not your words. This is why Zeland warns against confusing intention with visualization or forced affirmations. True intention is a subtle authority, a deep knowing that requires no proof, no external validation. And this is the great secret hidden in plain sight. You already live inside dream space. Every moment, every thought, every emotional posture is being mirrored back to you instantly, not in some distant future, but in the unfolding scenes of your life right now. You might think, but how can I control my thoughts perfectly? You don't need to. This is not about controlling every thought. That would be impossible and exhausting. It's about cultivating a general state of being, a baseline posture of lightness, confidence, and quiet authority. Zeland compares this to setting a radio frequency. You don't need to micromanage every note of the song. You simply tune to the station, and the station plays effortlessly. Likewise, your job is to tune your state to the station you prefer. Not to force every detail to unfold exactly as you imagine, but to inhabit the frequency of the version of reality you wish to experience. This is how the wave of fortune begins to carry you. And here's where most people trip up again. They try to maintain intention, but allow themselves to get hooked emotionally by every obstacle. They start well, holding intention calmly, but the moment something goes wrong, they panic, react, and begin to spiral. At that moment, dream space simply reflects back the new state. Panic, reactivity, uncertainty. The master of dream space is not someone who never encounters difficulties. It is someone who holds intention steadily even when difficulties appear, because difficulties themselves are part of dream space too. They are simply scenes that test whether you will remain aligned or return to reactivity. This is why Zeland says that the art of reality transurfing is not to manifest specific outcomes, but to surf the alternatives flow lightly and masterfully, maintaining alignment while navigating the shifting scenery. The surfer does not control the ocean, but the surfer's balance determines whether they ride smoothly or crash into the waves. Dream space is the ocean. Intention is your balance. The moment you grasp this, you stop fighting reality. You stop pleading for better circumstances. You stop obsessing over obstacles. You begin to see every event, every encounter, every situation as a perfect mirror, not always reflecting what you want, but always reflecting who you are being. And then something extraordinary happens. Your sense of victimhood disappears. Your struggle begins to dissolve. Your lightness returns, because you realize you don't need to manipulate reality anymore. You only need to master your state. And as you do, dream space aligns effortlessly. It can't help itself. It was built that way. The hidden rule no one told you about. The reason life can feel so chaotic and unfair is because we have been taught to control reality externally, when all along it has been responding to our internal posture. This is why those who master dream space seem to live charmed lives, because they understand that the mirror does not reflect your effort. It reflects your essence. Every moment you are inside dream space, you're shaping your path, selecting your film strip, communicating your alignment, not through what you want, but through what you are. Most people are sleepwalking here. Their emotional posture is chaotic. Fear, doubt, striving, comparison, craving. And so their reflected reality is chaotic too, full of resistance, disappointment, small wins followed by sudden setbacks. Zeland offers a deeper insight here. You can never completely stop creating, but you can stop creating unconsciously. This is why the chapter on dream space emphasizes the shift from struggle to mastery of state. Because intention is a state before it becomes an action. It's a vibration before it becomes a result. So what does mastery look like practically? Zeland describes it as moving through life like a traveler who knows every path is available and calmly chooses the one they prefer, without fuss, without force, without desperation. Imagine walking into a vast library, shelves upon shelves, millions of books, each containing a different storyline for your life. Some are filled with hardship, some with ease, some with heartbreak, some with profound joy. Dream space is this library. You are always selecting books, turning pages, moving from one narrative to another. But most people choose books reactively. They rush from shelf to shelf, grabbing whatever story seems to match their current mood, often reinforcing negative loops. I'm unlucky. People betray me. Success is hard. I'm never enough. The hidden rule of dream space is that the library never closes, and the books you hold internally are immediately reflected externally. Your life is the book you're reading now, and you can choose a different one at any time. But how? Zeland says that intention does not mean forcing the next chapter. It means lightly but firmly picking up the volume that matches your preferred state, and embodying that state now. This is why lightness is such a recurring theme in reality transurfing. When you reduce importance, you reduce distortion. When you reduce attachment, you reduce imbalance. When you hold a calm, centered state, dream space organizes itself smoothly. The irony is striking. Those who want reality to bend to their will rarely succeed because their wanting itself generates friction. Those who release the struggle, who walk lightly and hold intention quietly, begin to notice how easily life rearranges itself. And yet this requires courage, a different kind of courage. Not the courage to fight, but the courage to trust. The courage to let go of frantic doing and replace it with quiet being. You see, there's a hidden paradox here that most miss. Dream space doesn't reward the one who tries harder, it rewards the one who needs less. The person who acts from alignment, who reduces importance, who holds the state of certainty, even in the absence of immediate results, begins to surf the alternative's flow masterfully. This isn't about delusion. It's not about pretending you feel aligned while secretly doubting everything. It's about cultivating true alignment, not faking it, not forcing it, but practicing the posture of intention until it becomes natural. Zeland describes this as a transfer of power from the noisy ego self to the deeper current of dream space itself. At this level, intention no longer feels like a mental task. It becomes your very way of being. You stop chasing results because you realize that results are just reflections. You stop fearing setbacks because you see them as tests of your alignment. You stop comparing yourself to others because you know everyone is simply walking their own mirror path, some consciously, most unconsciously. The freedom this brings is profound. Imagine living each day knowing that reality is your mirror, that dream space holds every possible outcome already, and that your job is not to force, but to select and align. This is where life becomes elegant. Decisions become simpler. Actions become lighter. Challenges lose their emotional grip. Even difficult moments feel like passing weather, not personal failures. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. This is why the teaching in dream space feels like a hidden rule. It has been there all along, operating in the background, but few ever pause long enough to question why life reflects back what it does. Once you do, once you understand that dream space mirrors not what you wish, but what you are, everything changes. You realize you were never a victim of circumstance. You were a participant in a vast feedback loop. And the moment you break that loop with alignment, you reclaim mastery. This mastery is not dramatic, not loud, not boastful. It's subtle, quiet, almost invisible, but infinitely powerful. The calm authority of true intention radiates without noise. It doesn't seek approval. It doesn't demand attention. It simply moves, lightly, gracefully. And dream space rushes to comply. So when you wake tomorrow, remember, dream space is still watching, still mirroring, still reflecting your inner posture, perfectly, precisely, unfailingly. The hidden rule no one told you about is that your alignment is always creating your path, not later, but now, not someday, but this very moment. And once you know this, you cannot unknow it. Every breath you take, every state you hold, every feeling you nurture becomes a message to dream space. This is who I am, and this is the path I choose. And so now you know. The hidden rule of reality, the rule that quietly governs your every experience, is not something distant, occult, or abstract. It's immediate, simple, unyielding. Dream space is the mirror you live inside, and reality reflects not your efforts, not your struggles, not your wishes, but your state. Even when you are unaware of it, this rule operates. Even when you feel lost, this rule applies. Even when you blame others, this rule is active. Every smile returned, every delay encountered, every obstacle, every opening, all mirrors. You were told that life rewards effort. You were told that struggle builds character. You were told that desire is the fuel that propels you forward. But the mirror is indifferent. It reflects perfectly what you are being, not what you hope. This is why some seem to glide through life as if reality conspires for them, while others drown in endless struggle. The difference is alignment, not effort. And now that you know this, you can no longer look at your life the same way. Each thought, each emotional tone, each quiet inner assumption is shaping the film strip you walk into next. You're inside dream space at every moment. But now you can stop drifting unconsciously and start surfing intentionally. Reduce importance. Release attachment. Hold your intention lightly with calm certainty. Smile into the mirror, and the reflection smiles back. Walk lightly through dream space, and the terrain softens beneath your feet. Become internally aligned with the scene you prefer, and reality rushes to mirror it. The hidden rule no one told you about is that you are never waiting for life to change. Life is waiting for you to align. And so tonight, as you fall asleep, remember that you are not falling asleep into chaos. You are falling asleep into dream space. A space that responds, not to how hard you try, but to who you are being. Choose your film strip, choose your frequency, choose your alignment, and dream space will do the rest.